Hello, hello, everybody. Welcome back to Reality Realness with 3 S's. I'm your host here, Chantele Francis, with my amazing Wednesday co-host, Jonathan. How goes it today, Jonathan?
You know what? This is a really good episode to talk about, so I'm excited.
Why is it a good episode to talk about?
It's a lot of, Marty's HOH reign is just wild. So, it's all over the place. So, yeah.
Yes, it's true. It's true. And I think we have some competitions for you to critique. So I'm happy about that as well. If it's your first time here in Reality Realness, do us a favor and subscribe, be part of the community, hang out with us in the chat where we talk about all of our favorite reality TV shows. So today, as we've already talked about, Big Brother Canada season 10. So you kind of let the cat out of the bag here a little bit, but what is your overall opinions of this episode?
I would say, if I had to sum it up in one word, I would just say
Messy.
unstable.
Unstable.
It's sloppy, it's messy, it's erratic,
Unhinged.
it's unhinged. I was thinking of unhinged while I was watching it. I was thinking of you. I was like, oh, we like to use our unhinged word. It was. And just emotional, and not in a good strategic way by any means. It was just bad.
Okay, so you watched Monday's episode. We haven't talked about that. So what do you think about the fallout of the double eviction and how those 5 peoples went into the Expedia room? What were your thoughts on the whole chain of events? And then now we're getting to find out Marty's conclusion about the events.
Yeah, so I thought it was interesting because as a non-feed watcher, didn't know any of that happened, and to kind of see it play out, I was like, oh, that's really, really interesting. Big leap he took to think that he was being someone like that. To me, has so much ego. It drives me insane. It's all about you. Like, you think these people did all of that to set you up, and they couldn't come up with something better. It was just sort of,
it was something that would work, that they wouldn't have any blood on their hands.
Amongst the panic and craziness and everything that was going, they're like, you know what? This is what we need to do. This is where we set Marty up. This is where we do that. Like, what? It doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean? It's just I just thought it's such a big leap, and it just goes to show kind of what ego he has. I think we saw a lot of that in tonight's episode as well. And I just would want, if I was any of them, Marty would have to go. Have to go. Just even we saw it a little bit later, but it was kind of triggering, that kind of violent outburst that he had with Kevin.
They started the episode with that, and when the feeds were happening, I didn't see the exact incident, but I saw people reacting about it, and they could hear the banging, and you see on the episode them looking up, what is happening? Is that so? Who's up there? It sounded so violent, and he's banging on the table and getting us. I'm so angry. But then at the same time, he's like, but I don't like them messing up with my character because Canada sees my character. And I'm like, you don't think that Canada also sees you really, really angry, banging on a table, mad at a young woman?
Yeah. When you're unable to control, and when Kevin was talking to him and he was like, what can I do for you? I want him to go. When you can't control your anger like that, that's just something that is not okay with me as a person. I can't even be friends with someone who's like that. I would never be able to trust that you have it together to not hurt other people around you. And I'm not saying Marty's ever done that or he ever would, but for me, viewing that type of behavior in anybody I know is just unacceptable. So I don't care what kind of emotional state you're in. Yes. No one else is like that in the house. And so I can't be around that. He would have to go. That would be my emotional response to that, is even if I didn't want you out, I would put you out just because I didn't feel safe around you. And I'm not saying that he's a threat to them. I'm just saying, for me, that's triggering. And I just was really taken aback by his emotional outbursts that are that sharp and violent. I feel like violence is the appropriate word.
Absolutely. And not to say that he has ever been physically violent with a person in his lifetime,
Yeah.
but I would feel unsettled that if there could be a misunderstanding where it could allow him to go off the rails like that and get so angry. Like, I don't want to be cagey around him, being like, I don't want to say the wrong thing. I don't want to play the game for myself to win because I'm scared that he's going to have some sort of violent outburst. Like, I think it's really inappropriate to have somebody that's easily angered in that fashion. It's not good TV for me. That's not good
Me
TV.
either. Yeah, me either. I mean, I like people getting upset. I like people getting sloppy and crazy and all that other thing. But that
He has
moment,
this like
where
rage. It's like
I'm
it's
like, you
not
need to
fun to
retake
watch.
that psych eval test, as far as I'm concerned, because that's not okay.
It's not okay. And like, it keeps on popping into my head, so I'm just going to mention it to you because we haven't really talked about it that much. But it reminds me of the whole Will Smith incident. Like how are you not able to control your emotions in these situations? Like,
I don't know.
that's scary to me. That something can trigger you so that you would step out of your character, right? Like, how you really are. Like, well, that's a part of you that can be triggered and you don't even know how it triggers and you don't know how to stop it. Like, that is scary to me, that you don't know how to control your emotions and things can trigger you and set you off and you do things that are out of
Oh,
character.
I was afraid for Summer when, after he spoke to Kevin like that, he was in the room alone with Summer and she was like, "What are you talking about?" And then he was just, again, his ego doesn't allow him to believe anything but what, he wants to believe. And then it went from that to get out, and which is fine. Get out, say what you want to say.
It was
But I was
rude,
just
though.
worried that it was going to be to the next level. And because of what we just saw, and it wasn't, but I'm just saying, it was really unsettling, like you said. Yeah.
Like, what kind of person would be speaking to Summer like that? Get out. Like, that's so disrespectful and rude. And the fact that we got the receipts that she did not say that to him
She didn't.
at
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
about him. Like, that's another thing too. It's like, he's so emphatic and he's so right and he's so angry and he trusts Jess implicitly, and he is so wrong. And with wrong information, he it gives him the free reign to act in a certain way. And then after, when he finally, like, oh, I was wrong, he can go and apologize and think that everything was okay. And that really bothers me as well.
Yeah.
I am shocked, though, that they showed all of this because, like, we knew that all this has gone down. Like, I'd seen the clip with Tim and Summer. It's a lot longer. And so, I knew that, like, he had these outbursts, but Marty's Canada's favorite. And so I was surprised that they showed so much of him.
I almost think you had no choice because, although, like, they skipped the wheel, right, this round? Like, we didn't see
I
that
think they're
yet.
just trying to, like,
So,
because they're breaking up the format, which I can't stand.
oh, don't get me started either.
Like,
I'm like,
on Monday, it was okay. And I'm like, okay, but that'll be a nice jam-packed Wednesday. You'll have the nominations and then the veto comp. Like, that'd be a great,
yeah, it was
great
okay
day.
because of what had happened, and it was a different episode previously. Yes, I agree with you. Yeah, but today should have been straightforward.
They had 5 minutes left. Like, just put the damn people on the block.
Yeah, it was they're doing it on purpose because of, like, they're making it even seem like a soap opera. Like, I felt like I was watching a soap opera. I felt like this was Days of Our Lives. And they even had the kind of, announcer at the end make it sound as if it was like a soap opera, like, on next time, what's going to happen with, like, it was very soap opera-y.
Very true.
Crazy.
Very true. So we already
Right.
talked about the beginning with Marty yelling and banging on the table. It's still shocking. I'm very impressed by how Kevin handled it because it did seem like he was taken aback a little bit by the amount of anger that Marty was freely expressing.
Kevin's good, though. Kevin's
very
like
good.
so good at, like, being on all the time, like, playing always, never getting caught up in, like, whether you make the right moves all the time, it's neither here nor there, but it's just always be playing, always be thinking, like, what is good for my game, and Kevin's really good at that. So,
Well, especially with the fact that, and this is what I've been saying the whole time, it's like, how are they not figuring out who were the votes and who was the thumbs up? Like, it was very clear to me. I know I wasn't involved, and like, it's definitely a whirlwind, but like, Kevin was like, thumbs up, right? Thumbs up, everybody. And like, Kevin was like, oh, so disappointed when Betty decided to abort the mission. And so the
But
fact that
I just think people aren't calling him out because they're working with Kevin, so they don't want to, like, you know what I mean? Be like, well, Kevin's the one who, you know what I mean? So,
well, not Betty. Betty is
but
well, I mean, a little bit. They did make up
yeah,
though, so
yeah, a little bit. So I feel like she is aware and could have said, and she's not doing it on purpose. So that's what I took from it.
I
Anyway, I was like,
mean, I would say something to exonerate myself. Like, like, if because like the meeting last episode where Gino calls everybody into the room and they were like supposed to be airing out all the truths, like, I would have been maybe I might have taken the Kevin route and just not say anything and let everybody else just talk. But if it was being the finger pointed at me, I'd be like, this is I would just go through the steps of the events, and this happened, and this person said the thumbs up. Did you not say the thumbs up then? And they'd have to agree to it. They wouldn't be like, no, I didn't say that then. I'm like, you said the thumbs up. I looked at you. You said, okay, we're doing this. You know what I mean?
Was it her that said, like, oh, and then someone gave a thumbs up, you know, but like didn't say who it was? But
I think it was Betty.
I thought that was her too. So I just took that as like not wanting to finger point, but having the ability for other people to be like to agree with you, and people could be like, yes, that did happen, but not kind of saying who it was.
Yeah. Well, I think also though at that point they didn't know who the nominees were going to be, so they kind of wanted to leave it as ambiguous and vague, and nobody really remembers the full story, so that like Marty couldn't necessarily latch onto something, or Gino or whatnot. So I think that that's probably why they left it kind of vague. But if my life was on the line, I would clear up that situation, I think. Especially with a player like Marty that reacts so emotionally and is looking for any way to get himself out of the fact that he betrayed Gino a third time.
He needs to, like, I don't know what happened to him earlier in his life, but I don't know if it was someone named Gino specifically, or if it was a male figure that he disappointed in some way. If someone has some daddy issues or something, because he was just like, he's so upset with himself, and allowing that to, and it's clear, but allowing that to come out in all these different ways and not playing the game. You're not playing the game. I don't care that you won HOH. You're not playing the game.
No. Hi, Arian. So to Arian, Marty is a stereotypical French man. He reminds me of Gaston from Beauty and the Beast. Sadly, many of us are just used to this macho, I am right behavior. I agree with you. It's not right. Absolutely. I definitely recognize his behavior. I lived in Montreal for 8 years, and I lived with, or not lived, but I worked for a man who looks a lot like Marty, super French like Marty. And he was openly racist, and like, he liked me, so he would joke around with me, but he got mad at me once and he act rageful like Marty did. And I'm just seeing these character qualities with like the ability to be so rageful with the people of color. It actually rubs me a lot the wrong way, because Kevin, who, if he thinks back as to what happened, Kevin was in that room and was part of that discussion, and he got zero blowback from it. Helena also was in that discussion, but like, gets zero blowback from it. And it's a little bit problematic for me, just that he chooses to have his rage on anybody that has a little bit of black in them. That's what it's looked like to me. And I danced around it for the last few weeks because I don't want people to think that I'm stereotyping his archetype, but it's becoming more apparent that he has a problem with black people, and he has a problem with controlling his temper and his rage. That's what it's looked like to me. I'm definitely not a fan. People were coming for me and be like, oh, you just don't like the old person. It's like, I could feel this from him. You know what I mean? Like, when
no, I'm like usually rooting on the older person. I'm like, I am the older person, but like, it's
I'm
like
the same freaking age as Marty. Like,
so it's like, no, we want the older person to do well. And I was really hoping that Marty would do well. And then I've even I went against Marty, and then I was like back on a little bit, being like, you know what, maybe you can really pick this up. And then now that I'm just like, what was I thinking? Just to even kind of remotely give him some sort of reprieve, it's just awful. It's awful.
He makes me so angry. Hi, Jazz. Don't worry. I went live a little bit early today because I was just annoyed that it was a to be continued. I was annoyed with like reliving the
We were
events.
Marty raging, so we had to.
Yeah, I needed to like get my Marty rage out immediately because he's really insufferable.
There's a lot to unpack in this episode, so yeah.
A lot. Exactly. I mean, I would never want to put that on somebody, but it just seems as though he feels really comfortable with speaking in that kind of manner to the Black people in the house. That's what I've noticed. And it's very similar to the similar people that I knew in Montreal. And they were really like, they were openly, they joked about the fact that they're racist, but like they liked me because I was cool or whatever.
Listen,
you know what I mean? But
as a white person, I was deeply unsettled by the episode and what I was seeing in front of me. It was just like, and like the first thing I said, I think it was triggering for me just in like the violent aspects of it. I was just, I can't imagine what that's, like for seemingly you and what people that just viewing that. I mean, I'm glad they showed it, don't get me wrong, because it's happening and needs to be shown, but at the same time, yeah, it's unbelievable. It's like, I'm surprised, how is he not getting like any sort of like warning? Or
maybe he has. I don't know what happened. I thought it was Jess maybe threatening to quit, but there was a time where the feeds were down during their HOH and nobody really knows why. And then after that point, they were not on the feeds as much. So, but maybe something happened with Marty or maybe something happened with them. I don't know. But there has been things that have been going on that have been not privy to the people that are watching the live feeds. So maybe more with him. All right. So exactly. Hi, Anna. So the unconscious bias in the game has created some bad reads game-wise. Absolutely. Kevin has benefited. Absolutely. Kevin has benefited. And Marty has let his biases ruin his game. A goner now. Absolutely. He would have, like, if he stayed normal, like how he kind of was at the beginning. We know that he's a bad game player. At least he also recognizes the fact that he, he's not really great with the strategy. So he mentioned that last episode. So he knows that. I think that he could have gotten away with just being like a bad game player. But this rage stuff and yelling at Summer when we get the clear receipts that she did not say anything of that sort, and how he's coming for Betty, it's just all very distasteful. Ugh.
Oh, and the whole Betty thing, like, I'm sure we'll get there, but it's like, she can't win anything. How does that make sense? You're going with the weakest person. You're like, I'm going to take my HOH to get Betty out. That's the move.
The mastermind.
I'm going to make enemies out of everyone, but I'll get Betty out. So it's like, we're not there yet anyway, but it's crazy.
So ridiculous. Crazy. And so Josh goes and talks to Marty, and like, this is before any nominations happened, and he just kind of wants to like just calm down and just like see where his head's at, obviously. And the obvious thing that happened to Josh and to everybody else watching is Betty got cold feet. So on their side of the couch, they pulled the plug and they didn't have a chance to give the wink or the head shake to Helena and Marty because they weren't looking at them. Like, that's basically what happened. I think it's actually terrible, though. What do you think about the fact that Betty decided not to continue with that plan after I really thought that it was a locked-in plan from what it looked like?
It needed to happen, and they're suffering the consequences of getting cold feet. What I thought was interesting in that episode was how close Summer was to them, but they were all able to have like a conversation, like, look at him, I don't think it, without like, and Summer just sitting there not hearing any of it. I kind of just want to like be there and like, I'm like, what can they hear? Like, how far away can you hear? How low were they talking? Like, but yeah, it was a mistake to go back and not get Gino out. If you make something, don't start making like last minute decisions.
You can't second guess it. Once you say we're doing it, you have to go through with it, because then it just actually messes up. It's a house of cards. Everything comes tumbling down.
Yeah.
It gets
Yeah.
super messy.
And I mean, and in a way, unlikely, because under anyone else, I feel like they could have hidden behind it. But of course, Marty, won, and he was someone who was screwed.
Michelle, I'm sorry, Michelle. Poor Michelle has her tattoo artist was Melina, so first
I
pick was
remember,
Melina,
yeah.
and
You can just
then
cross Marty off. You can just cross him off right now and just have more time to heal over it. Yeah.
Michelle had Jay,
Ooh.
and then Michelle has Betty, and then Michelle has Marty. So you better go all in on Betty at this point.
Michelle, I don't want to say that you're not going to win, but you're not going to win.
Oh, Mishy.
I'm terrible at draft picks, so don't listen to me.
Hi, Natalie. So I wonder if Katie Scott will be interviewing whoever gets evicted tomorrow. Ooh, have you seen all that, Goss? Oh,
Yeah.
I showed it to you.
Yeah, that's the person who said there was bullying or in reference. Yeah, I mean, and I don't, as much as I was harping on the fact that I'm not enjoying Herman. I mean, Herman wasn't. There was no bullying going on. So no, I don't agree with that. And yeah, that's that interview was pretty
Terrible.
Yeah.
All of Canada are with you. Like, I'm not.
Like, where's the poll? Where's the info? Where are the receipts for that?
Who are you speaking for? The other blonde white women that use in your
Yeah,
group?
I mean, and you can say, like, I'm sure there's a bunch of people who are rooting for you. So blah blah blah. It was just someone who can't handle themselves in an interview. And it sounded like it, and it was terrible. So they shouldn't be interviewing. I mean, you might be talented in other ways, but just don't interview people if you don't know how to talk on air.
Or if you're not actually a fan of the show and really know the dynamics of what's going on, because that was a really uneducated response to what actually went down, and really bold words to be calling two black men in the house. Just saying. It's a little bit inappropriate. Hi, Danny. Happy Wednesday to you as well. And she exactly. Betty can't win anything. What a waste of a week for him. He has blinders on. I need my glasses today. Oh my god,
like they put on the horses.
Yes, blinders on. Absolutely. Did Katie Scott do that weird Jess interview where she went along with her bullying talk? Yes, absolutely. That was that person. Hundo. Okay, back to this annoying episode. I mean, it was actually a very entertaining episode. And one thing that I love about reality TV, that it does actually bring up these conversations.
Yeah.
It actually makes me feel things. Like, I'm frustrated, but I'm still intrigued.
Emotion. Yeah, it was compelling to watch, evokes emotion. Yeah, I agree with you. Like, as crazy as it was like a good episode to watch, because it was very full of things happening that you're like, what?
Do you know, and I'm just wanted to touch on another thing about the going back on the flip. That's what ended up tanking LaToya's game, right? I know you weren't a fan of LaToya, but the fact that, remember, they were doing the flip and then they flipped back and then they flipped again, or whatever it was. It was like a last minute flip that she was trying to get together, and people were just like, we're not flipping again. Like, you can't go back on things last minute.
Stick to it.
You have to stick to the plan. You do, or it's it really will.
Especially when it's kind of like your plan, like you were one of the originators and you brought in other people and then you're leaving them out in the colds, it's just not great. So yeah, it's, again, I think if Marty didn't win HOH, would that have really caused all that much trouble to the extent that it has? Probably not, but look what happened. And so you're left with a very unstable HOH who's determined that someone set him up.
because he
What?
doesn't want to look bad in front of Gino. It's just,
Yeah.
it's so
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
So ridiculous. So Betty obviously does not want to go and grovel to Marty, but she goes in, she pulls on her big girl panties and is like, "I'm not coming for you. Like, I want to work with you, all these things." So I mean, I was happy that she's making some efforts here to try to stay in the game, but and Marty seemingly is like not mad at her in that particular conversation. It's still shocking to me though that he has decided that she is this mastermind and she's actually the worst out of everybody this season at all the competitions.
But like,
So
has he said specifically why he wants her out, or is he just like, it needs to be Betty? Because all I'm kind of really hearing is like on the show is that it just needs to be Betty, that kind of stuff. But it's like, what specifically? I want to know that why
I'm
is he
thinking
threatened?
skin color, but I'm not
Yeah,
100%
but like,
sure.
what is he telling other people? Like, what is threatening him? Like,
Betty's
she's not gonna
Betty said
win.
his name, maybe. Betty said that she's coming for
Like,
him,
she's a
maybe.
vote against him. Like, who cares? So is so many other people. But like, I want him to like give me reasons, like actual reasons.
He doesn't have any reasons.
Yeah.
He's got none. None, none, none. Hi, Caitlin. So what's with the JLN summer situation? Oh, I haven't seen that. That's something that's happened today, I believe. So I don't think they'll show it on the show. It's not that big of a deal, but I think that Gino was helping Summer stretch and he touched her lower back and Jacey-Lynne got upset about it. But I haven't gone and watched that. I just saw a couple of tweets about it. So I'm not sure about that situation yet.
Jacey-Lynne, you're not boyfriend and girlfriend yet, are you?
I don't think so, but they've been
Calm
doing
down.
like, was it on the show that they were doing like cute kisses? Was that on the show or was that on the
Yeah, I
feeds?
think I've seen a couple like little pecks here or there, whatever. But
No, but this one they were like lying on top of each other in the bedroom for a long time and doing like coupley kind of like rubbing noses, kissing, zerberts, like,
I don't think I
that
saw
kind of thing.
that, or
Okay.
I've blacked out and tried not to.
Ah! I think it was on the feeds, but it's sometimes it's hard to know which is which because it looks like the show. So I just say pop. So because Betty trapped him into voting for Gino. Yes, right. That's also the reason. So he
But like,
feels
why
that
was it Betty? There were so many people in that room. Like, there's 5 people in that room altogether, wasn't there? So why Betty specifically? Like, why does he think that she was the one who led that? Is what I'm saying.
because
Like, why not?
he's working with Kevin and Helena. And Josh, he's kind of working with, and he has an indigenous co-worker. And so
Let's say.
Betty's the only other person that could betray him in this way.
But it's not even like he believes it when he like talks out loud to himself about it. And he's not talking to the camera as much. So he's like really like in his emotions and he's not
Delusion.
like playing it up. Like he's really believing all of this. So anyway.
Well, or he's forcing himself to believe it because he doesn't want Gino to believe that he could possibly turn on him without him being tricked. Instead of just like all Gino or Marty had to do is say, Gino, I was brought into a group. I thought it was going to be the majority vote, and I didn't want to be sticking out of the vote. I'm sorry that I voted for you. It was a mistake. Like, I didn't really want to. I just really didn't want to be on the outside of a vote.
Yeah.
That's fine. That's it.
But he thinks he's owning up to it a different way. And it's like, you're not really owning up to it. You're copping out.
Yeah.
By saying it was
Pointing the
someone else's
finger.
fault. Yeah.
Absolutely. So Jason's the only white person that Marty has nominated. Yes, and it was the first week, which is funny. And she took herself off the block, and now she can do no harm whatsoever. And I've not watched the feeds. Has Kevin pulled Betty into his alliance now that her and Summer have pretty much have fallen out? No. Betty. I don't know if they'll show it, but Betty is trying to stay. Or I guess I can't talk without doing spoilers. So don't you worry. Yes. Okay, just say it right there, Jess. It's just right there. Loud and clear. Okay, so because I saw a tweet that JL said that she thinks that Summer wants her to throw hands, so she'll get kicked out or something, and I was like, "What the fuck is going on?" Yeah, it's that situation. So, Jacey-Lynne thinks that Summer is trying to make her angry with her closeness with Gino, so that she will get mad and get physical and get thrown out of the game. I haven't seen it on the feeds. I've read probably the same things that you've read, and so I'm not 100% sure.
Because that has such a high success rate. Like, who is actually like, how many people do we know? I mean, if that happened like once a season or once every couple seasons, I can see that as a strategy, but it doesn't happen.
Do they not know what Kevin is doing? No, Kevin, nobody really believes that Kevin is doing anything.
Because there's so much sloppiness going around that I think other seasons Kevin would stand out, but I think there's just all this craziness happening.
He wouldn't. I don't think he would stand out last season. It was pretty messy as well.
As long as it's not, that's what he thrives in, is that there's this.
He wants that, and he's like
pushes
messy.
it on. Yeah.
Absolutely. Like that's you want if you are going to be playing the type of game that Kevin's playing, you don't want people to be thinking rationally and strategically. You want things to be chaotic and messy, and you just know where the hits are happening. Like he knows what's going on and he's just watching all the chaos, but he's able to stay out of it because he's actually the one that's igniting it, which he's throwing in the grenade and he's just like watching from the sidelines. Which is I mean, he must be having a good time playing this season, right?
Oh, yeah, and he's in a good spot, so he must, yeah.
So does anyone else believe the weird lie from Marty? No, not really. Gino has that. I haven't seen Gino talk about it that much.
Wait, what lie are we talking about?
I was entrapped.
Oh, I mean, does Marty think it's a lie, or Marty believes it, right?
Well, anybody else in the house, is Marty the only person that believes it? Yes, I think that he's pretty much the only person that believes this lie, but people are kind of just going along with it because he's the head of household.
False narrative, yeah.
Mm-hmm. They haven't put it together that Kevin is the one working them. No, I don't think that they'll find that out until it's too late, until maybe his goodbye messages. Marty is canceled. Absolutely. I do not want to see him play Big Brother again. Absolutely not. I mean, I really hope that he's out next, but Kevin's not going to want him out next. So we're going to have more weeks of Marty to come, I believe. What's really funny is I pulled the 5 of Wands for Marty. And the 5 of Wands is everybody battling each other and it's fights. And I was like, this card means that he's going to be the center of a lot of chaos, which is really interesting that that's the card that I pulled for him. Because he is. So we see Gino and Marty talking, and Marty's saying Gino, this is your HOH. You could do what you want. I want to make it up to you. I feel so bad that I betrayed you again. Blah blah blah. So Gino wants to take out Josh, and I was like, I don't know why he's so bent up on Josh. Really, they don't really have that much of a relationship, but I don't know why.
Yeah, I mean, I understand it. Like they said,
he's a better competitor.
Josh has been. I think Moose said it. Josh has come in second 7 times, in 7 competitions. He's someone who probably has people, working with him. And if you're not close with him, then I would want to. If I didn't like Josh and I was in the house and I wasn't working with him, I would be targeting Josh as well. So I get it.
Yes, but I guess from my perspective, it doesn't seem like Gino is really doing anything. So I'm just like, why Josh? You know what I mean? It doesn't seem like he has. But anyways, he is a strong competitor. He is very likable. We
want an answer as to why he wants Josh. Yeah, exactly.
I want to hear it. You know what I mean? I don't want him just to be. I don't want to fill in the blanks. I want him to be telling me why.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So Caitlin says that this were BBUS, Marty would be asked back for another season. Probably. He'd probably be their favorite pick. They loved Marty in the beginning. They probably still do. They're going to probably try to save his image completely. So Jacey-Lynne was also in on this conversation with Gino and Marty. And so he's thinking of telling Moose. So Gino wants it to be Josh and Moose up on the block. And Marty's like, oh, I just told Moose that he could kick his feet up and that I'm not going to take him out this week. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, if Marty tells you to kick your feet up, that means that, like, put your shoes on because you're walking out the door. Like, you're going to be on the block. Like, his word means nothing.
And my thing with that is, why are you having a conversation with Moose? If you're so devoted to doing what Gino wants, why are you having a conversation with Moose first and promising things prior to having conversations with Gino? I was just like, it's kind of like what Kyle was doing, where it was just kind of, going out of order and just making people promises and just all over the place. It was reminiscent of that. So I was just like, why would you have promised Moose that? Like, why wouldn't you, even if you already spoke to Gino once, thought you knew what you wanted, then you're changing your mind because maybe Gino wanted something else. Why would you do that?
They do, like, kick your feet up, kick your feet up. Like, I don't want to kick my feet up. Like, no.
You should never kick your feet up in the Big Brother house.
Not in Big Brother. No. Like, Kevin is never going to kick his feet up.
No.
And that's what I like and respect. Even though I'm not necessarily a fan of what he's doing right now. Like, I don't want it for the game. For his game, it's excellent, right? Like, anytime I've played a game, like, game's probably boring because, like, I want the house to be kind of boring because that's better for my particular game. But, like, Kevin's playing an excellent game. I support him doing well. I don't want him to get his way this week because I think it's just going to be bad for the actual whole season. But it's going to be good for him.
Kick your feet up, put your flannel on.
Yes. I still remember kick your feet up in optics. Truly, we're sick of it.
Don't bring that back. I forgot about it.
Optics.
Don't bring it back.
We didn't hear it this episode, so that's good. We heard kick your feet up a couple times though. So now Marty has to go tell Moose that he might be a pawn. And Moose, I thought, was really good with how, like, he was really calm with how he, like, responded. And he was like, well, like, if I am a pawn and say if you're leaving Betty off the block and Betty were the one to win and take Josh off, I would still be up on the block. And so, I mean, the fact that the head of household hasn't thought through that scenario, which is quite simple, is not like rocket science strategy. It's not the strategy of the entrapment.
All Marty has going on in his head is how he's perceived and, like, his emotional thoughts. It's not like, it's not game, and you can tell because of what he says. It's never game. It's like he regurgitates something someone else says to him, but there's no forethought put into that. There's no kind of like, okay, step, and then this would happen, but then this. Like, there's never any kind of elaborate plan that Marty has going on beyond what's in front of him. And because it's the ego that just drives his everything. Crazy.
So basic. And then, okay, like, I didn't know that he could make me more rageful than him yelling at Summer or yelling at Betty, like any of the antics that he's done so far. But he nominates Josh and Betty for setting up the trap for him to betray his friend. And then he says, I'm a 43-year-old man with a bad knee and a bad shoulder. It wouldn't be a worthy Big Brother Canada winner, in my opinion, if you backdoored me. I was like, SDFU, Marty. You're getting the backdoor treatment no matter what this season. Like, I just do not see a scenario where he does not get the backdoor treatment. And the fact that he's trying to guilt people into, my knee and my shoulder and I'm old. And after he's been an asshole.
And it just got, like, this is another point that we hadn't talked about yet, is when he was saying that, what was it? Hold on, I should have written this down. But when he was talking to, who was he talking to? It's tip of my tongue, where he wanted to say, like, was it to Summer? Where he was like, about Summer, like, if you agree with me, it was when he was talking to Gino, and he was saying, trying to run the whole Herman thing. And he's like, well, if Gino agrees with me, then I'll just do it. And if Gino puts up any resistance, then I know that he's working with him. So I'm like, wait, how does Gino win in that situation? Like, it was very like me or me. It was very like, well, if he disagrees with, if he disagrees with you, then he's working with him, and if he agrees with you, then I'm going to do it anyway. So he's getting what you like. You're getting what you want. I was
Yeah,
just
no
like,
matter what you're
how?
putting up him on, like, and you're whatever Gino does, his response is it's going to be
Like,
the green light
yeah.
for
So I'm
you
like,
to.
why even have this? Like, I'm like, what? I'm like, you're the thought process around that was like, he really thought there was two sides to it, and he's only presenting one side two different ways. And I was like, what's wrong with you? Like, what is wrong with you? And
Well, he
then,
needs to
of
have a
course,
green light.
yeah, and then of course with that whole thing at the end, I was like, you're someone's gonna throw fists in your direction, because that's like, you're driving me crazy. I was like, I can't stand. Oh my gosh, Marty, go home, go
I was
home.
so like with Marty when Betty was calling out Marty. I was like, yes, Betty, just like lay out some facts here,
Because you know
like
she will. Yeah, she's good for
like
that.
just go for it. And I love like Josh pissed off being like, do unto others. You don't want the backdoor treatment. Like you're gonna get the backdoor treatment. Like I love them being responsive because most people are just like really quiet around the head of household and they don't really want to say how they feel, but like he was instills so much rage in people that like I'm
Like,
happy that they at least shared some
how
honesty.
many how many people did he tick off this week? It's like, and then going to like Summer and being like, you know, if I wasn't doing this, I was gonna target you. Like, who says that? Like, who says, like, by the way, I'm doing something else and there's more important people, but I really wanted to get you out of the house and target you because of something that I'm assuming is correct and it's not. But I was just like, terrible gameplay. Like, who are you? You pissed off three people, minimum. Like, we've only talked about three right in this moment.
Four for
Uh,
Gino.
Josh, well, Gino too. Yeah, and I mean, you like all these people that you know what I mean? Like, what are you doing? HOH is when you position yourself for next week, build your relationships, and make moves for sure, but minimize any sort of damage and use the power that you have. He's done the complete opposite. He's taken that safety and allowed him to just be a tyrant and just do whatever he wants and just crazy about it. Oh, I can't.
So Marty, though, of course, is gloating in the head of household room, saying karma hits. And I'm just like, he doesn't even get how bad what he's doing is for his game, his image, like all of the things that he's so scared of. He's actually doing it, which is it's very interesting that it's becoming a self-fulfilling prophecy that he
Yeah.
wants to be looking so great in the eyes of Canada that he's actually looking horrible in the eyes of Canada, and for not the reasons that he's anticipating. Like, oh, I'm gonna look like a backstabber. Like, that's the least of your worries here, bud. So Moose does go in to thank Marty, which I think is also really good, like on Moose's behalf, like considering he hasn't watched I think he watched season 6 because he knows Erica, but he doesn't really know the game that well. So I thought that was good instincts for him to like go in and say like, thank you for not putting me up, Marty.
Yeah.
So then we see the Marty and Summer conversation, if we can call it that. And it just was so frustrating. And I felt really bad for Summer because especially when you know what you said and who she was throwing up was actually Herman. Herman was who she was saying like, oh, maybe we should put up Herman. Like that was the person that she was pitching to Jess. So the fact that Jess was even so emphatically saying to Marty that Summer was up here throwing your name out there left, right. I was trying to giving her a French fry dipped in Frosty and she wouldn't even take it because she was so needed to keep on drilling it home that Marty was the person that I needed to put up.
Yeah.
And the fact that the fry moment happened,
Yeah.
but the complete opposite was she's like, I don't think that we should put up Marty or backdoor him.
Yeah, and I'm fine with that as from Jess's point of view. Like, if you're using something because you want to set someone up or do whatever the case may be, by all means, like, go and tell Marty that for whatever purpose you wanted to. But it's the fact that Marty doesn't, like, first of all, you don't know Jess from anybody from, prior to 2 months ago. So like, it's, but he's so hung up on the fact that Jess will not lie to him. He was just, yeah. And I felt for Summer because, like you said, when you're like, I did not do this, like, I don't know how to prove that to you, but that did not happen, and someone's like losing it, and
Well,
just
and
like
this is the thing though, like,
it's frustrating.
why couldn't Marty just have a little bit of a moment, take a second, and be like,
Why was it
if
said? Why was it even brought up this whole time? Like, why was it brought up? Like, what's the point?
because
Where
he's
does it get
angry
to?
at Summer now, and he needs to like make reasons to put up the people that he wants to put up. So he can now, if he's in a fight with Summer, like he has a good reason to put Summer up on the block. I think he's just trying to find reasons to put people up on the block so that he wouldn't like it will mask him, turning his back on Gino and stabbing Gino in the back, blah blah blah.
Mhm.
What was I gonna say though about Jess? Oh, wait, about Summer. Okay, so yeah, if Marty took 1 second and just like thought about the situation and listened to the fact that Summer's like, watch the tapes. When you watch the tapes, you will know that I am telling the truth. If the person that you're accusing of is telling you this and you have secondhand information, wouldn't you be like, like, I would assume that she's not going to be so emphatic about something like in this particular dynamic, especially since she really wasn't doing it. So, anyways,
Yeah.
I thought that he read
Yeah.
that situation wrong as well. Go ahead.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if it's out of like, I would never assume something unless it's like the likelihood is just so far fetched that it has to be a certain way in a game like this where everyone's lying to you. That's the only time I'd be like, well, the likelihood, but several things would have had to have happened. Like it would have had to have, maybe several other people were there and they all told me separately, and they're maybe not on the same, you know, in the same groups, and it just made sense because of something else that happened. Then perhaps I would believe it. But just going off of like what one person said one time, like on a thing, and then to like throw a
When they
whole
had
fit about it,
power, you know what I mean? It's like,
yeah, it's like no, no. And when people are lying, they are often very specific. So bringing up the whole Fry thing, and even though that was true, it's people do that when they're lying. So the more information that you're getting and the more descriptive you're getting, I would like less likely to believe that. So the whole fact that Jess brought up the Fry thing in general was
would
like
have been an alarm
is an
bell.
indicator that that's actually a lie, because people don't need to support their argument with like I was even holding a French fry and had to dip it in to change the subject because
When it's not being asked for, it's not like
yeah,
she's defending herself and
yeah,
she's bringing up
yeah,
points of like,
yeah,
no, this happened, then this happened, like the thumbs up thing, right?
yeah.
Like
Yeah.
bringing up that.
It's just as coming up with it. So it was like a big indicator that that's not the truth, as far as I was concerned. When we're
Isn't
rolling
he
back
a
the tape.
loss prevention person or what does he
I
do?
don't know.
He's
I don't know
a
what he does. I don't know what he does.
what do you, in the chat, you guys remind me what he does? He not loss prevention. He does like doesn't he a fraud investigator? Yeah, fraud investigator. Fired.
Um,
Like no job to come back to. Terrible at your
hopefully he just
job.
comes up with facts and doesn't need to like investigate people speaking to him and assess kind of lies coming his way, because I don't know that he's great with that.
Not at all. So, okay, we have the veto competition. We didn't get to see the veto spin. It is partycasino.fun. It's a different concept than we've actually really ever seen. Like both of us do enjoy the knockout type competition. So it had a little bit of a knockout element where everybody would vote for who they wanted to see to compete in a particular stage of the competition, and then the person that got the most votes would choose their opponents from the people that are playing for the veto. So I liked the concept of it. What did you think of this competition?
The only thing I would have liked better, and I did like it, was if you had to like they could all see who everyone voted for and you reveal
Mhm.
at once. Like if I'm like, why does there need to be dividers other than
Or
like
like
when
just
you're
be
making
like
up,
say the name out loud or something like that. Like
write it
Gino,
down. It could be in
Gino.
a circle or something, like whatever. You can write it down and then present. I would have liked to have seen that happen where everyone could see what everyone was writing when it was revealed. But other than that, I mean, I really liked it. It was a fun little, multi-layered competition, which we like. So
Absolutely. So the first comp was it was a tie between Betty and Kevin. So they both were going to be playing this round, and it's basically skee ball. We see that at every sort of amusement park where you kind of roll a ball and have to get it into holes. So I
Yeah.
assumed that Kevin was going to win this one, but
I mean, I thought they're particularly not good at it. It didn't look that difficult, and I was like, oh, okay. I don't foresee most people not getting it within a couple throws, and it just seemed like it took an extra several for me, but whatever, doesn't matter. But yeah,
for Betty or for both of them?
both of them, I was like, they kept running back to grab them, and I'm like, those are pretty large holes and not that far, and it's skee ball. Everyone's played it a million times, I feel like. So I was surprised at how bad they were. Kevin wasn't bad, I just don't think it was great. And Betty wasn't great either. So
Betty gets a little bit flailing, like she just
he threw one like off the. If you saw, there was like a quick cut, and like one went flying, and I was like, "What are you doing?"
It still makes me laugh that she had the intention of coming in as a comp beast this season.
The throwback to the other Veto when she was like the
The
last
bee?
person, and she was like sweating like that one, and I'm like, your life's not on the line, but like now I'm like, your life's potentially on the line. So yeah.
I do wish that she performed better in that round, but unfortunately, Kevin does win and gets sing all 5 or 6 balls first, and that means that since Betty lost, she's out of the rest of the competition, which kind of sucks. But it just sucks to suck, as Marty's daughter would say, or Marty would say. So then the next one is that they had to, I thought this was a good one too. So it's kind of taking a bit from Survivor, where there's like a wobbly table and that you have to stack um blocks on this wobbly table while holding a string or a rope. And so they had to make like a puzzle. So it's kind of like a Sudoku. So there's 4 different colors and it was a 4x3 puzzle. So they had to make sure that was it only up and like
Diagonal too.
horizontally and diagonal as well, or no?
Yeah, diagonal too. Yeah, the colors weren't touching. Same colors. Yeah.
So I like that.
It's
Not
really
that
easy to figure.
difficult, but
You just have to like, yeah. It's if you know how to do those puzzles, they're fairly easy. But I mean, like, it looked like Gino knew how to do it right away. So he was like pretty quick to.
well, you just have to know that you have to like kind of at least put it one off of where you put the other color. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I believe that's how you solve that one. But anyways, they thought that Gino wasn't going to be able to do it. So Gino got the votes. People don't think that Gino is smart at puzzles, and he chooses Josh, which I thought was surprising that he would go against someone decently strong. Coming second in 7 comps is pretty good. Funny enough, though, Marty thinks that Josh chokes at competitions, and I'm like, coming second isn't choking. It's just not being as lucky sometimes. But anyway, like with like the ring toss, come on, like it just so happened, Marty, that you got your ring on first.
It could have been
like
either. Yeah, exactly.
so Josh and Gino, and Josh they both kind of toppled their blocks a couple times, but Gino did manage to get that done first, and Josh is really upset that he wasn't able to really help out himself and Betty, who's pretty much his number one in the game, or close ally. So the third one is placing balls on a beam. And Summer is the person that gets the votes, and she picks Gino instead of Kevin for this. What did you think about that decision? Everybody was kind of like, her mom was like, "Why would you pick somebody that's really strong competitively?" For sure.
Yeah, and I don't think we ever got a resolve as to why she picked Gino. I know, like, as it was happening, she claims that she realized in that moment that she wanted to throw it to Gino, but yeah, I'm not quite sure. Maybe she thought, like, Kevin seems like the obvious choice, but maybe she thought Gino is too strong and that requires more of a delicate kind of a touch that he may not have, but we just kind of did see him do that with the puzzle. But I don't know what she was thinking. I would definitely do that against Kevin if it was me. Yeah,
absolutely, you do it against Kevin.
Yeah.
And regardless, like if you were now you're throwing it because like you're doing poorly, and so Gina's gonna win anyways now. And I guess Gina would be better to beat Kevin potentially, because I think that Gino would have kept the noms the same. So that would actually be better
I,
for Summer.
I would listen, you're the backup. So I would not be trying
I know.
to throw that. I would 100% try to win it. I don't care. I'd be like, I need to win this to make sure that my butt doesn't go up on the block. So I was disappointed that she wasn't really trying, because I'm like, that might send you home. So I don't know.
Yeah, Summer not wanting to compete in these competitions, like it's like if she were competing, maybe some of these outcomes wouldn't have happened. You know what I mean? Even if it's just beating out one other person, like longer in a round or something like that. Like she just needs to start doing better because she's losing allies. You know, like
And you can't go to the end and be like, my social's so good that I threw these challenge. Like, people aren't going to believe that. They're just going to
she
believe you
wants
weren't
to go
there
to
that
the end
long.
and say that she never touched the block. That's what she wants to be able
Yeah,
to
and she
say.
wants to be like, and I didn't need to win anything either, or something. Like, I get it, but it's like, it's not.
But you
It's,
have to
it's
also
part of
really
the
be good at the
game.
game.
Yeah, it's part of the game to like be kind of this overall well-rounded player. So like, start winning some stuff, especially when you know your butt's on the line.
So the final competition here is obviously going to be Gino and Kevin, where they have to put together a puzzle of letters with names of the house guests. And then they have to cross off the names of the house guests, and any intersecting letters were going to be part of a word unscramble. So I thought this was it was fun. It was fast. It was easy, but like had enough elements to it that it's like slightly difficult. And I'm so upset that Gino is seemingly a French first language person.
I mean, I was gonna say that's clearly why there was a misspelled word there, because I'm like, he's English isn't his first language, right? So
Like it might even be his third language, right? He might speak Greek first, he might speak French second, and he might speak English third, or like go to like an English school, but his parents at home speak French and Greek. That's what I would assume, because he has an accent. So that means that he's probably had maybe a lot of his schooling, or at least his home life has a lot of French speaking within it.
mhm.
Um, but it's not an easy word necessarily for someone that isn't English first language. Like you would forget that it's a double E. You wouldn't think that that's the way that it's spelt if you are translating. And he kind of just did a French way to spell it. You know what I mean? And so the answer was nominees for the word scrambles, and he kind of put like nominees, which makes sense grammatically with like how you would think from how you hear it and how it would be if you were to spell it in English. But I think this is like just an like a ESL type thing that made him lose this competition. And then Kevin was able to spell it correctly and won that. So do you have any other thoughts about that and its fairness?
It's part of the game. I mean, like, remember on Big Brother US when they had like the big like pool of like letters, and you had to like find stuff and then spell like the longest word, and whoever had the shortest word would go home. And there was a lot of idiots who just can't spell. I mean, that's part of it. If that's not your strength, then that's where your social helps you out. Like, you know what I mean? If you happen to be unlucky and be in a situation like, listen, if it was spelling every week, not fair. But like to have the odd game where, I mean, maybe this is the first one where spelling matters. I mean, that's good for people who aren't physical, and you know what I mean. So I do think it's a nice balance. And yes, it's not your first language, but I mean, we're not going to have French words in there because English is like the dominating language in Canada.
I
Then
think though
second to
that's how
that
you
is
spell
French.
it in French. I need to look it up actually, because I feel like it might be like an E accent aigu, and like it's spelled comme ça. I think. I mean, I could be wrong.
Clearly
I
we're
have to.
going for the English spelling of it. So I mean, I think it's totally fair, and I think that that's the
Let's
way it
see.
is. And if you're going into the Big Brother game, and
Learn the
English isn't your
words.
first language, learn like the typical words or phrases, know how to spell them properly. Nominee is it's a word that's in the game that's used every week. So I mean, it's not like it was
He
some
knew the
random word.
word, but yeah.
Yeah,
So
but
in
that's
French,
fair,
it's spelled Nominees.
which is not how he spelled it anyway.
So he spelt it. It actually is the same without accents, basically.
I thought he
So
spelt it with an E, an
with an
E.
E. So he replaced the E, but in French, it's the same. So my theory is out the window. He spelled poorly, because if he spelt it the
Yeah,
French way, he would
yeah,
have
yeah,
spelt it correctly.
yeah. So, well, so yeah, there you go.
But
So
there's
I
just
mean,
accents.
I just think, and listen, if it's just flat out just a bad speller, I mean, so am I. But it's just unlucky that, I mean, his life's not on the line necessarily anyway. But it's some are physical, some are more mental.
Hi,
Hi, Dolores.
Dolores. Good evening. So yes, it is possible. English is definitely not his first language. I know English is my second language. It's when I was younger, I used to get my vowels mixed up. Yes. So I totally agree, and that's what my argument was. But I just looked up how to spell nominees in French, and the spelling is actually the same, but there's accents on the first E. So he might just be a poor speller, because if he spell, or maybe he just thought that maybe it must be different than how to spell it in French, maybe. But unfortunately, he loses to Kevin. So Kevin has the power. So after the comp, we see Josh and Betty crying, and I thought it was a cute moment where they're just like, "We suck! Oh my god, we're gonna leave each other. This sucks. I can't do this without you." Like, let them have their little moment, but hopefully they'll kick it into gear and like start working
Yeah,
on Kevin.
yeah.
Get Kevin to do some work for you.
Yeah. We see those moments often where it's two people who are working together tight, and they're just like, is it going to be one of us? Like, but again, they still have options. They have options. So in that moment, but have your moment, move on.
So also we see Helena then wanting to talk to Marty in the head of household room, and then they go into she's in the shower and they're talking, and Helena starts pushing that it's time to put up Herman. And so Helena tells Marty that Herman and Gino are working together, and that he's not going to go for the showman, so he'd probably come for you first. And she's making some good points and good arguments.
I was like, yes, Helena, fine. Like, I'm seeing some gameplay from you, and like you doing something that's going to further what you want in this game in an appropriate way. So I was like, good for you. Yeah,
Absolutely. We love it when people are taking action, and not just, like Summer, just like, I'm just going to try to avoid the block. That's
yeah,
my strategy. I'm going
yeah.
to be nice to people and avoid the block. But like, you kind of have to steer yourself and put yourself in better positions, or else people will not respect your game.
And like Kevin has said, like Marty is so, malleable. Like he's just, you can push him in any whatever direction that it's like, people should be aware of that and try to work them. So I was very happy that she was, trying to do something for herself. So
Yes, it definitely is. It's nice to see people want to win and are trying to play and trying to position themselves in the game, not doing exactly what the head of household does, seeing whenever there's power that's happening, that you could use it as an opportunity to get your agenda through when it's not you that holds the power. So I'm always all for people using anything that they can to get their agenda across. That's one thing that was like so frustrating with me about Xander, when people think like Xander played the best game. He held on to his idol the whole game and he got to the final three. And I was
he
like,
wasn't doing anything with it.
he didn't do anything with it.
Yeah.
Like, if he had used that idol and taken out somebody else and kept a couple of his allies in the game and got to the final three, I would be like, yes.
Just existing is not playing the game. It doesn't matter if other people don't want to target you because of whatever reason. That might be their own reason, and just happens to be your position in the game. Not doing something is not playing. Existing is not playing the game.
Dolores, I'm not happy about this. I like Summer. I do think that she is a fun person to watch on the feeds and like to engage with the audience. Like, I like her, but I like game players more.
Yeah,
So
we talked about that it's just unbelievable because she knows she's the backup. So to like be like,
well, and like get some power and change the fate of this game instead of playing somebody else's game. If you don't have any power and you are not making moves happen, and if you're like okay with being the backup, like then you're not going to get a win. It's just not possible. Nobody's going to value that. Especially when people have been trying so hard. So far this episode, we see people trying harder. We see Moose trying decently hard. Like we see Kevin, obviously, and we see Helena. 3 people trying way harder than Summer, who is the replacement nominee. Like, what?
yeah.
So we see Gino talking to Marty, and this is where we see the scene where the trap that Marty's trying to set for Gino, and Gino's like, "It's your head of household. You do what you want to do. I wanted to build something with Herman," but like he was completely honest with that too, which I thought was really great on Gino's part because Marty's trying to find out whether or not Gino and Herman are secretly working together. And Gino's like, well, I kind of wanted to, I was building something with Herman. I wanted to kind of maybe work with him moving forward, but I see your logic in your decision. And so I can support that. Like he doesn't fully support that, but he's giving the head of household what he wants and not giving that much pushback because he is head of household. And so people will say what they need to say to coddle you and not make you blow up and do something irrational, like put Gino up on the block, which is what he should be doing. Because if he was going to go turn on Gino and then the plan falls apart and then he wins power, I would 100% be like,
still turn on Gino. Exactly.
I got to turn on you for real now. Like that didn't go through. Oh, sorry.
I would say I just don't see a world where you could ever forgive me. And I'm sorry. Like this is what we're gonna have. Absolutely. But I don't know what Gino did or said was by accident or if it was just like strategic. But with Gino saying like, oh, I was trying to or starting to work with or trying to work with him, whatever, is like a new version of someone being like, well, I'm okay with them. Like, I'm fine with them. Or I was like, oh, that's like a really smart kind of new thing to say that I would totally buy if someone was saying to me like, oh, I'm just starting to like, get closer to them. So, I mean, I'm fine with it, but like, not really, it's not necessarily my benefit, but I'm not totally against it at the same time. So I thought that was like a good thing to say. Like you had mentioned.
A normal head of household, but Marty is clearly not normal.
Oh, no, Marty was trying to like.
He wanted anything if like, oh, you know what? He blinked. And so that means I have to go put up Herman now.
Yes.
That's his tell.
Yeah.
So I've never been a fan of Summer. I don't even find her entertaining. I find her entertaining.
I've said it from day one. Not a fan. Like don't find entertaining either.
I like Summer.
And then, especially after this episode, I was like, do something, Summer, please.
Well, I think that, she's Twitter's darling because they do find her entertaining. Like, if you watch the feeds, you see just a little bit more of just normal interaction. She's just like a fun person that like is enjoyable. You know what I mean? But, sorry?
I have a question.
Okay.
Summer's from St. Catharines.
St. Catharines, yes.
St. Catharines. Why you just said Toronto is because she was proclaiming to be from Toronto. Drives me crazy. So anyone who's not in Toronto knows that when people are from the GTA, Greater Toronto Area, claim that they're from Toronto, it drives us all crazy who are in Toronto. So she's like, in Toronto, we blah, blah, blah. And I was like, you're from St. Catharines.
You need to be like, in Ontario. Yes. In Ontario.
So from St. Kitts, which I've also lived in St. Catharines as well. But I'm going to just say from St. Kitts. Don't say, from St. Catharines. Don't say from Toronto when you're not from Toronto. You don't live in Toronto. I was like, it drives me crazy. I was like, oh, Summer.
But I think, that she's still in a decent position. And so I think that that's why people want to give her more credit because she hasn't been targeted. She hasn't been on the block. Obviously, this episode, it looks like she did nothing to Marty and he's targeting her. But like up until that point, she wasn't really on anybody's radar. So that's kind of why she was getting a lot of praise from people watching her game is that she did get Gino to backdoor Kyle. So that is something that she can have as a little check mark on her resume. So she's not. I'm still gonna give her a chance. Like she could still prove herself to me as being a decent player. Love Summer as a human, but her game isn't that great, in my opinion. Agreed. Watching the feeds, the players are finally vocalizing that Marley only sees the black folks as an option to put on the block. Mhm. I do watch the feeds, still don't find her entertaining. That's fine, Maureen. Not everybody's cup of tea. I definitely have liked people that people don't like, and definitely not like people that people loved. Usually I'm right, because the people that I don't like usually end up being like the social pariahs, and people end up hating them in the end. But I'll wait for you guys to catch up.
I'm usually the outlier who doesn't like people that people like. But, that's fine. Everyone has their own opinion.
Yes. So Kevin, though, so smart. And you were kind of saying that Kevin recognizes that Marty is very easy to manipulate. And Kevin decides to say that if you put up Herman, that's $100,000 game move.
Yeah. But
so good.
Do what you want. Do what you want.
Do what you want, but
strategically, because he says he's not good at strategic, so he turns to other people. So strategically, I think it's $100,000 move.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good because Marty's just somebody's strategic telling me to do something that's strategic. I'm gonna make the strategic move. I'm gonna win the game. No, you're getting played. You're getting played.
Yeah.
So I love that moment, obviously. So Marty does talk to Gino again. No, sorry, that's the same mood. He's gonna blindside Herman, though. That's kind of what he decides in the end. Then we see Herman having a talk with Marty and just talking about what the options are, this and that. And they did make a deal, I'm not going to put you up or whatnot. Marty even says you are not going up, and he says it would be Summer that would be going up, and
flat out lies to him. And
not
then,
great.
Jury management. Have you never heard of
They do not think that jury is happening yet. So this will be the first vote for the jury.
But you don't know, and it could. So it's why wouldn't you? I mean, maybe the first couple people I wouldn't care about, but
they
why
think
would
that,
you?
that he is the last person before jury, and it's going to be a jury of 7.
Yeah, but it's an assumption based on no facts.
Nothing.
So it's why would you assume that? And even if there's even a remote chance that it could potentially be someone on jury, why are you flat? And he said, we saw it. He's he's gonna be so pissed. And I'm yeah, why? You don't have to do it like that. You can just be you don't have to really put salt in the wounds. I'm what do you? I mean, it's just it's good for everyone else but Marty.
So Kevin has surprised Maureen the most. I thought that I was going to hate him, but he and Helena are my favorites. I don't love Helena because I don't love the rat floater game. She does a lot of the scurrying and whatnot. I appreciated her being very clear and specific about going after Herman and slating her agenda, but she kind of rubs me the wrong way a little bit. She kind of
it's a little spineless up
yeah.
until maybe we're starting to build something, maybe a little bit. I agree. So if I saw more of today from her in the future, I could definitely support her more. Yeah,
exactly. So there's a few things about Helena that I'm not enjoying. She kind of plays POC when it suits her, it seems, you know what I mean? So anyways, it's just something I'm noticing about her that I'm not particularly enjoying, but I do like when she gets very clear about the game that she wants to play. And so I'll just put a pin in Helena, but I love Kevin. I think that I was surprised that him coming in saying, I'm going to come in and be the master manipulator, the villain. I'm going to take out Canada's favorites and not care. I was like, okay, terrible strategy, last picked. And he ends up being my favorite. Absolutely. So I think it's because he's an Aquarius. I'll say it through and through. Air signs are my favorite to watch in this game. So we'll just keep it at that. I agree, but she seems to be getting better this week. Yes, absolutely. and Kevin is playing a great game, I could see him going far. Absolutely. Nobody sees him. Nobody sees him as a threat. Nobody sees that he's actually pulling any strings. Nobody sees him having any allies. Like they don't know about him and Marty. They don't know him and Helena. They don't know about any of the Crash Test Dummies, doesn't know about that. So he's set up really well, and he won a competition, and then he might win another competition. So he still might not look like a threat, but he might start building some of these comp wins that will give him a little bit more clout. So I think he's in a good spot to win the game. Absolutely. And he knows to set himself up. So hopefully he'll have his end game set up
sure
too.
that there's like different factions, like there's little groups, which I think really works well for him rather than one larger group that, everyone kind of assesses like who's on the bottom of that group. When there's many different overlapping groups, I think his game style works best in that, and that's what's happening. And I do think he's been a part of that, like making sure that happens that way.
Absolutely. Like Maureen, Herman leaving would be fantastic for his game. Because Herman he wants to gather all the strong players together and have a big alliance that like dominates competitively and takes out all the perceived weaker players. And so Kevin would be considered a perceived weaker player. And Herman is very capable of winning power. He's capable of gaining people on his side and to want to work with him. And so that is a big problem for a structure to be made within the house, because Kevin wants the chaos. He doesn't want things to start being structured and there be an obvious target where he is one of these obvious targets. So absolutely he needs to strike at Herman, but I don't want to see Herman go, for the fact that I want Kevin to have some opposition. Right? So lastly, though, we see Herman talking about, like to the cameras, and it's not looking good for him, but he still thinks that he's good because Marty is a man of his word. He does mention that he may be willing to go against his word next week, depending on what happens, but it is a to be continued. Dun, dun, dun.
Foreshadowing, maybe. I don't know what happens, so I don't know. But it's like not great. I mean, never just assume you're safe when you don't know. And
not in this house, anyways.
Not in this house. And yeah, and especially when you kind of plan on taking the person who's keeping you safe out next week, perhaps. Like it's just like and screwing them over. So like if you genuinely feel that way,
and why wouldn't somebody else genuinely feel that way too?
It's quite the assumption to assume that people can't pick up on that, or someone doesn't feel that in some sort of way. So I was like, I don't know why you feel so safe, but okay.
So in a diverse game, it's inevitable for racial biases to come into it somewhat. Absolutely. I think that BB US 23 was hedging for this when they did teams for the first part, yes, of the game, and made sure each team was diverse. Absolutely. I mean, yes, I agree that that's why they made sure that like the teams end up becoming balanced. Like, they didn't have like a black person and a non-black person like ever going head to head in that little jackpot thing, when our bandit, when a slot machine thing. And so yes, that was to prevent it just being like racial biases coming out. I only gonna pick white people or people that look like me on my team. So yes, that was a smart way for them to go about it, the teams in that way, just to force people to not immediately side, but with color lines. And
whenever we talk about that too, it's like I always flash back to that season of Survivor. And I'm terrible with memory, guys, don't come for me, but that season of Survivor, I don't know what it's called, but where everyone was separated by, like, we had the white people, we had the black, you know what I mean, like everyone was like racially, like, remember that we had Asians, I was like, you'll one, but it's like looking back on it, you're like like no comment.
Did anybody how did this pass the team?
I'm like no comment on that whole season. Like, but I mean, yeah, it's just kind of like, let's put everyone on their own tribes with their own race and then like see how it works out. But I mean, almost like, yeah, it's just whenever it gets brought up, I was like, well, Big Brother hasn't done that, I guess. So
Well, that's pretty much it for the episode. Do you have anything else that you want to talk about other than that?
No, like I said, good episode, lots happening. Hate the to be continued element of it. But it was very compelling to watch. Like there was a lot going on. I had a lot of opinions about it, and we'll see what happens. And I want Marty gone quick.
I
Whoever
do
makes that
too.
happen is my new favorite. Whoever makes that happen.
It's not going to be Kevin though. Kevin does not want Marty to go anywhere because
Yeah,
Kevin's
I mean,
this
I
mess.
understand that.
So I don't know what Marty's like understanding of Big Brother is. He only really goes on about how like he loves Kevin Martin and how Kevin Martin is the best player and he's so good, he's so good, he's so good. Kevin Martin's he's a good player because he broke the system. He basically studied the end game comps and figured out how to like game them. So I don't know how great he is strategically because he really literally won out. So for that to be Marty's idol, it's just like, and he did on his second try. So I
I
don't
just
know.
don't know what Marty thinks his path is to the end. Like how does he think he's going to get there, and whose votes does he think he's going to get by ticking everyone off, and like why? Like I would
Well,
love to
he's threatened people with not backdooring him. So at least if he's nominated, he'll have the chance for the veto. So I think he thinks he'll just
win
win
out.
himself to the end. Yeah.
Okay, all right. We're not there yet. Okay.
Hi, Sophie. Yes, the Circle season 4 is coming, and I saw that Spicy V from Canada's Big Brother last season is going to be
I
on it.
I think that's such a good yeah,
That's
I would
fun.
love to see Spicy on Spicy V on it for sure.
Absolutely. I think
Good
it's
move.
definitely a good pick. I wonder if she's going to go as her. She has to go as herself. Oh, but she
Yeah.
might be too famous. I don't know. Is she too? No, people haven't seen it.
Um yeah, I don't know. I think she can go as herself and then just kind of there's been like celebrities on them before, remember? Like
Lance Bass.
Lance Bass. Yeah, yeah. So I mean, people might not believe her. So it's kind of, who knows?
Yes, it will be amazing. And you know who else loves her? Marty. Marty thinks she's so hot. I was like, get out of here. You do not think Spicy V is so hot. And like your wife is okay with you saying that she's so hot. Like, get out of here, Marty. Yeah, that would be terrible to backdoor the old guy with the bad knee and the bad shoulder, babe. Bad shoulder. Ah. Well, obviously, you're one of my favorite people to talk about the things that we hate, like with. So, thank you for being here, Jonathan,
Love it. Thank you.
and thank you everybody in the chat for being here as well, and adding to the conversation. I know that we weren't super plus about Marty and kind of the things that were going on, but as I said before, I do love having these conversations like that. They it's kind of what lights me up is having like really good talks about things. So I thank you guys for all being a part of it. And obviously, we'll be back here tomorrow. I guess I can go live with JoJo after the episode, unless we do it on Friday in the afternoon. Not sure there, but I will be going live with Phil, most likely at 7 p.m. Eastern, to talk about Survivor, what I'm going to go watch right now. So, no Survivor spoilers. Yes, good night, everyone. Make sure that you subscribe to the channel. And like this video if you're watching it afterwards. What should we ask the people? What do we want to hear from them?
Ooh, I don't know. What's a
Do
good one?
you want Marty to go now? Like, do you think he should be like expelled?
I mean, I think that yeah, let us know your thoughts on Marty just overall. And we're open to people liking Marty. Just
For sure.
give us information, explain why. I would love to hear the varying opinions and views on it. So
Yes, I definitely want to hear more about because I really was shocked by how much they showed of Marty in this way. Because usually they protect people when they start acting like this. And so the fact that they did not protect Marty is pretty shocking. So I would like to hear the reaction from everybody as
All
to
about
how they feel
Marty.
about Marty now that they saw this episode.
Exactly. And give us some good like episode titles. I want to hear episode titles. Make some up and just give us some. Leave it in the
Ooh,
you know?
well, so I was wanting to do this last season, but it never happened. But I'm thinking going through all of like the announcer speak and putting together just like the whole season review with just like the no, like just like that, and just put all the announcer intros and outros and just seeing what the
How
season
that
sounds
plays
like.
out. Yeah,
Hmm?
that's cool. That see how it would play out. That's cool too.
Yeah. So I'm gonna give that a try. And I think if I'm motivated enough, I'll probably start doing it now. So when the end of the season happens, like I'll just have to put the last few episodes in. So that's something that's gonna come. So let's hear your episode title. Like mine would be "What a Mess." What's yours?
It's too much pressure. I can't think of one right now, but it would have to be clever and it would have to be relevant and hopefully it would be based off of something that someone said in this episode. So I'm going to reserve the right to it. Maybe I'll do it for next week.
Marty Mayhem.
We'll
No
see.
more Marty. Anyways,
Go
I could
home,
probably
Marty.
think of
Now,
something.
no.
Thank you, everybody, for being
All
here.
right.
See you
Bye.
next time.